Katie Hearn. Welcome to Behind the Braves. You are, you're one of my most trusted advisor when it comes to podcasts, because I know you're like me. You're a big podcast person, and when we first started doing this, you were one of the people that Greg Mize and I were wanting to meet with, and who's been a big person in our lives, Greg Mize, but. Yes. You were a person we were wanting to get advice from and be a soundboard to us on getting this thing started and what we should do to make it good. And you've been somebody I've trusted all along. So first of all, thank you for being our Behind the Braves advisor.
Yeah.
There you go. She's on our board.
She is the chairman of our board. Absolutely.
It's a privilege to be here. I know this isn't radio, but I feel like it's long-time listener, first-time caller.
Oh, really?
Very happy to be
that.
here. Yeah.
Well, we're very happy to have you here, and also to have Jack here, too.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, tell us, Jack just had a birthday here recently. Tell us about Jack a little bit.
So Jack is my guide dog. I got him in November, right after the season last year. He's a Southeastern guide dog. A lot of people say he's a seeing eye dog or he's a blind dog. He is from Southeastern Guide Dogs. It's in Florida. It's actually near the new spring training facility.
Oh, nice.
And he helps me get around. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about just me, how I became a Braves fan, what my story is with the Braves, but also how I lost my vision and how I've kind of come back from that. So I'm happy Jack is here with us.
Yeah,
I am too.
Well, he looks very content.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, he's
for a puppy. That's pretty good.
That is pretty good. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, first of all, Katie, why don't you just tell us we'll back up and talk about kind of your childhood and becoming you're always a Braves fan, right? And where you grew up, not too far from here, right?
That's correct. Yes, I grew up south side of Atlanta, Palmetto, Georgia. It's a suburb of Atlanta, Noonan, Fairburn, if anybody knows that side of the city. And I always grew up playing sports. I started in t-ball, was very competitive when I was 4. That was our first year really playing. There were 2 girls on our team, and our coach was giving the end of the game speech, and it was like the 4th or 5th game. We were halfway in, and he said, "Do any of you guys have any more questions?" And I raised my hand, and I said, "I'm tired of playing in the green, and I'm ready to play in the red. Like, put me in the infield." And I'm left-handed, so he let me play some first base that year. And I played for him again the next year, and I was the only girl to make the All-Star team. So I really got into sports then. I played t-ball till I was 8, or I played t-ball/baseball till I was 8, and then transitioned to softball. I played softball all through growing up. I mean, really grew up at the fields. Those are, it takes a village, as everybody probably knows, whether you're playing sports or not. But I really grew up playing with my high school team, playing with my club team. Those are my best memories, just being at the ball field all week, and then spending weekends at tournaments. All of our vacations were planned around tournaments and things like that. My dad and I were really into sports, and my whole family really, but we really loved Braves baseball. I had kind of a uniform. I was, that 90s kid. I was born in 88, so whenever we came to the games, I had the white jersey, but I had an airbrush shirt that I got probably at Panama City or somewhere down there that I would wear under the shirt, and I would wear the jersey over top the airbrush shirt for years when we would come out to Turner Field and Old Fulton County Stadium. So those are really my big memories. Just being aligned with the Braves. I love Chipper for call. Galarraga, Andrew Jones, all of those guys.
McMichael?
Yeah, McMichael, yes, of course.
I was a little bit before her time.
Javi Lopez, those were
That's a shocker.
The players that I remember. He was. But yeah, I grew up loving the Braves and just really following them. I mean, what was not to love back then? They were on TBS every night, and they were just fun. They were always winning, so...
Yeah, I think I'm just like you. I'm a product of that. They were on TV every night when we were coming up. They were on TBS every night, and that's how the entire generation of fans were born, I think, born Braves fans. So
product of no competition.
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing. Monopolies, they work.
That's right.
For those who have them, anyways. Well, Katie, so let's talk about you. You go to college, and you. Where did you go to college, first of all?
I went to LaGrange College.
Okay, you went to LaGrange,
yes.
And then you get out of LaGrange and you became a teacher for a while, right? Middle school teacher?
Yes, I taught 6th grade English, 8th grade history. My 6th graders are actually graduating this year, which is so crazy to think about. So it's been a while since I taught. but I was teaching and I enjoyed it. But after a few years, I realized I don't have a passion for this. Like I feel I should have a passion for it. Like if I have kids one day, I want their teachers to have a passion for teaching.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had a, kind of a conversation with myself. I'll back up a little. When I was in college, at LaGrange, I had great professors and just another great community who really encouraged me to do internships. And I interned for Mark, who is our MC, Braves Vision host, Mark Owens.
Mm-hmm.
So Mark was, I interned in radio, and Mark was, the guy, and he posted something about the Braves seasonal staff, and I thought, I'll check that out. Like, that might be fun to be at the ballpark. I loved being at remotes at Turner Field when I was an intern. And so that was something that I thought I might want to do.
When you say remotes, you mean like the remote events, like they'd set up the tent, and that kind of thing?
We'd set up a tent.
Yeah, okay.
We talked to people about the radio station. We talked to them about, coming out, anything about that. I really enjoyed just talking to people. And in high school, I also worked at a pharmacy, and this is kind of where the service, so I don't know if I've said what I actually do here yet.
Yeah, we were getting to it. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, but go ahead.
But
we're building
I kind of, when I was in high school, I also worked at a pharmacy, and I was really focused on service. And so, and it was just basically getting to know our customers, getting to know everyone who was coming in. It was an independent pharmacy, and there was a role that was called a digital service representative. And I thought, okay, that might be something I could enjoy doing at the ballpark during the summer. Let me just try that out this summer and see what's going to happen. I'm in my mid-20s. I'll figure this thing out. And once I did that, I decided not to go back to teaching. I got here. I did the seasonal job. I said, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm passionate about being here. I'm passionate about helping people. And I want to be able to connect Braves fans. This is always somebody's first visit to the ballpark.
Right.
And so I want to be able to enhance their experience or help them, or if they have a question about something, I can find the answer or I can get it for them. And so that was something that eventually evolved into what I'm doing now. And
yeah, and that was that season when you were on the game day staff. That would have been 2015, right?
2015. Yes.
You and I first met, because that was my first season. I'd moved down here and was first season working with the Braves. Also was 15. So then in 16, you had a chance to become a trainee for the 16 season, right? And what was your role that season?
So that season, 2016, I was a trainee, digital service, focused on social service, if you will. So setting up how we answer fans' questions on social media, and also just tracking what they're saying about us. What are the trends? What are people saying? And really, how can we enhance it and make it better? So it was really, I also started working very closely with the guest services staff on training, how we trained our game day staff. That was something that was important to me. So I did that as well during 2016. And then in September of that year, they offered me a full-time position to continue, focusing on as a digital service coordinator, as a full-time role in the fall of 2016.
Yeah, that's it. And I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember I had the heads up that Katie was going to get offered the full-time job, and I was so excited, and I had to keep my mouth shut for a couple days until she actually got the offer.
Spill the beans.
I know. I'm notorious for that. So, yeah. But okay, so and then of course we closed down Turner Field in 2016, and then you're moving on. We're moving over here to SunTrust Park, and during that off season is when you first started experiencing some of the symptoms. Right?
Yes.
Yeah. So just tell us about the early stages and dealing with that.
Yeah. So we moved over to the ballpark. Before that, I was currently still living in the Noonan area, and I actually moved up to Cobb County, very close to the ballpark, and I just started having these headaches, and I didn't know what they were coming from. I thought it was just like, oh, I'm working all day, I'm looking at a computer all day, I probably need to get glasses, and it really started intensifying. Is that a word?
There we go.
Yeah. Intensifying. In February of 2017, they felt like they were right behind my eyes, the headaches, and so I went to an eye doctor on President's Day of that year and said, I think I need to get glasses, and it's kind of important that I get them soon. I work just down the road at the new ballpark. We're getting ready to open it. I'm really excited about it, and I don't want to miss it. I just want to get these glasses. And she said, well, your eyes are fine, but your optic nerves are really swollen, and recommended I go see an ophthalmologist. And so I was like, okay, I make an appointment soon, because again, I'm thinking I want to get whatever this is done so that I can be here, or so that by the time April 14th gets here, it's just a blip on the radar. Like, it's just something that I had to do. And the headaches were intensifying, and I was also my vision was kind of narrowing. So the first thing I lost was my peripheral. So if I was walking beside you, there's a chance if you were directly beside me, I probably did not see you. And that really started to happen late February, early March of that year. And I went to an ophthalmologist. She ruled out a brain tumor, but said, I think you have something called pseudotumor cerebri. And I said, okay, what is that? And she said, that's why your optic nerves are so swollen. The pressure's building in your skull, and we just need to find a way to relieve it. And so I tried some medicines, and those just didn't work. They worked some, but they didn't. The pressure was building so much and so quickly that they ended up having to do surgery on my optic nerves. But I did not have that surgery until right before the season. So my first surgery was April 12th, 2 days before we opened the ballpark. So I really knew the day that the season actually began. So opening day, we were on the road, and I think you were here, Ricky. We were going to watch the game in a conference room, and everybody's excited. You know, there's clearly a buzz. We're getting ready to open this ballpark. There's so much promise in the future. And I remember walking by someone, and I went to open the door, and I couldn't find the door handle. I had to be looking directly at it. And just a whole range of emotions, wiped over me. Like, I've got to figure this out. Like, this is, I was, at that point, that was when it kind of I got scared. But I had the surgeries, and I had some hope that my vision was going to return. And I had surgery on the 12th. I had surgery again on the 21st. That was on my optic nerve. So had it on one on my right eye, or on my right eye optic nerve, another on my left eye optic nerve, just to release some of the pressure. So the nerves are wrapped with kind of a cloth. For those who are listening, I'm trying to explain these surgeries without being too detailed. And they just kind of cut slits in that cloth, so that there could be some fluid that would flow through them without just pressing against them. And I had another surgery in May, where they just placed a shunt to just regulate the fluid, so that there's only a certain amount of fluid that can be encapsulated in my skull. And that has worked, and I do not have headaches. I don't remember the last time I've had a headache, but it did not. My optic nerves, unfortunately, the for lack of a better word, the life had already been squeezed out of them.
I see. Well, and I think back to that summer, and when Greg Mize, again, who's director of digital marketing and innovation here with the Braves, he called the rest of our team at the time, that included you. He called us in at one point that summer. I don't remember which day it was, and I don't know that I've ever told you this, but he called us in to kind of say that you talked to him and said that you'd come to the realization or the fact that you were going to have to move forward, basically with the permanent or the mostly permanent loss of your vision. And I remember he called us in and he said, just everybody get here as quickly as you can so we can talk about this, so I can let you know what's going on. And he did. And me as a friend, I didn't know, as a coworker, but more as a friend, I didn't know.
Yeah.
I wanted to be able to help, and I didn't know how, but I just wanted to know, what was that realization like for you? And I know you, and I know how tough and independent and strong you are, and how quickly did you say, okay, what do I have to do to move forward with this?
I think it was the doctor had kept telling me, we're just going to have to wait. Any type of nerve damage, it just takes a little while. You just have to wait. You just have to give it time. But as time went on, I just had this feeling. I just knew that it wasn't going to return like I hoped or like I wanted. And I believe in God. I have very strong faith, and I just kind of shifted my prayer to, okay, God, if this isn't what you want for me, please open the next door that you like. I'm not going to sit on my parents' couch the rest of my life. I want to go back to being independent, and I do want to ultimately work for the Braves, and I don't want to give up my job. And so it seemed like every time self-doubt would rush in, someone from here would call me. So I would be working on something, and Chandler might call me and say, like, hey, I'm doing a route of the ballpark. Chandler Vicento, he is our guest services manager. Super great friend of me. Also, now I work directly for him. And he would say, like, I just walked by Miss Nancy and Miss Marion. They wanted to know how you were. And it seemed like everybody was just checking in on me. Anytime I was having a doubt, someone was checking in on me. But I also just knew that I get one shot at this, and I don't want to live with any regrets. I started working for this since 2015, 2 years. And so I'm not just going to give it up if I can help it. So I started with going to Apple. So I wanted to get into this vocational rehabilitation program. And it was taking a little while for them to get me in for the interview process. So I said, all right, the first thing I need to do is learn how to use my phone again. Without just using Siri. I want to be able to use apps and use all that kind of stuff. And I know that people have to be able to do it. And so Apple offers classes. My mom and I would drive up to whatever mall was offering the class. She would take notes. I would sit there and do my best to flick through the screen and learn it. And then we would go home and practice. And it was just kind of me realizing that you can do this. You just have to work hard. I mean, you just have to realize that it's not going to happen in a day. You've spent your whole life living this one way, and just because you used to add it up 6 plus 4, you might now have to do it 6 plus 2 plus 2. Like, you have to do it a little different, but you can still get the same result.
Well, Katie, thanks for joining us, and I've just been a little quiet just because I've been enjoying your story. And I know as an athlete, we experience all kinds of things, emotions and problems and issues with success and failure as an athlete. And I'm just curious to know that you growing up playing softball and then playing even in college and being a pitcher. So, we got that in common. Pitchers are usually the toughest. So that's, I think about your story, and, I just, your bravery and all the things that you've gone through has been amazing. You talk about your faith, but I'm just wondering how much you think how God had prepared you with being an athlete, and how what you're going through now is a part of that helped you with your toughness, mental, physical, and then just saying, you know what, okay, this is what I've got to do now. And so I'm going to figure out how to be the best I can be. I just wondering have you related into that to your athletic days and what you're having to do now, but even though it's more mentally, but there's obviously a lot of physical things that you've got to do to learn how to walk with Jack, yes. and there's a lot of things that physically you still have to do.
Right. No, I completely revert a lot back to when I was playing and things like that. And I think, what did I want to define me as a player? I wanted to be a team player. I wanted to be a leader. I wanted to be passionate. I wanted to leave it all out there. And I hope that like, you may notice, like, the first thing you see about me may be that I'm having to walk with a cane or walk with my guide dog or walk with something. So that may be the first thing that you notice about me. But then once you get to know me, you hopefully will realize it's not what defines me. There are so many other things that define me. And I think that's honestly still evolving. But I do revert back to, and again, I think team sports is a huge thing. But just being an athlete and knowing that just grit, you've either got it or you don't. Being able to just get down and do it, because someone else is going to do it if you don't do it. Someone else will go in and do it. And the Braves could have hired someone else. I could have just, hung it up and said, oh, this is, I tried. But if I hadn't given it my all and hadn't tried my very best, then I don't think I would have been able. I didn't want to live with that regret.
Right. Well, let's face it, you got a lot of excuses you could pull out, right?
Right.
So we all do to some degree, but you've been handed something here in the short term that seems like a big blow to a lot of people, but yet you could have used that for an excuse and and you didn't. So I want to commend you. One thing too I wanted to say is that, Katie is a part of, we have a mentoring program with Sanford
Yes.
University, and Katie and I are doing that. And so here she is even giving back to
Yes.
a young student, which is exciting to me to be able to do that. But here, there again, you could say, well, nobody wants to hear anything from me, and there's, and played the pity party and that kind of stuff.
Right.
But yet you're even out there mentoring people.
Yes.
So that's exciting, and I commend you for that. And so we've talked a little bit about that and been to be a part of something that's exciting as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, you had you touched on it there. You could have thrown Greg touched on it. You could have thrown yourself a pity party. You had one doctor who kind of said something along the lines of, maybe you could maybe you'll start thinking about another career. And your response was to switch doctors, which is maybe one of my favorite, because I was like, that is Katie Hearn. If I
you're fired.
Yeah,
right,
you're fired.
yes.
That's somebody else. So that was never a question that you were coming back to work for the Braves, right? I mean, that was. Yeah, I kind of want to hear. Well, the doctor actually, you just said, okay, new doctor. That was it.
Well, it was a moment of when she said it, she was just kind of flipping through my chart, and she was like, yeah, you're probably going to have to, maybe find a new career or polish up some other skills. And I said, I don't think so. And when we walked out of there, I looked at my dad and I said, did you hear what she said? And I just repeated the same thing. And he was like, she doesn't know. And I was like, yeah, she doesn't know that we won't be back here. So,
That's great.
But I think I didn't know a lot about what it was going to take. And really it's just taking things bite by bite, just like any big thing that you're going to have to change in life. But I also felt like you don't know me very well. You've had to know me through this very extreme traumatic experience. I came to you in early March, and by July, a lot of my usable vision was gone. And so I had gone from clearly seeing very well and driving to work to having to walk around with someone and trying to get into a program so I can learn to live again. And so, you've only known me in this very extreme situation. And so it was a moment that I look back on now and I can laugh about, but in the moment I was just like, that was when I had already started to realize, this again is not going to define me. This might be where I'm at right now, but it's not going to be the end.
Well, and when we were kind of on the same team with the digital marketing side, one of Katie's things that I would marvel at, like on the social media side, was like during a game day. I mean, if somebody, if they were having some sort of issue and just something in the ballpark, whether it was, an issue with their food or their tickets or whatever, Katie was the one handling that and taking care of that and fixing that, or at least fixing it as best she could and that the Braves could. But also, and this was my favorite thing that she would do, is she would be scanning through Twitter and find somebody that would say, okay, I've got my grandmother here, it's her 90th birthday. Katie would be the one who orchestrated a seat visit and an autograph ball or just a gift of some sort, and that was just one of the cool things I got to see Katie do every day, both handling because issues arise with any business, any event, and she's handling that side of it, but also doing the side of
surprise and delight.
Surprise and delight. There it is. That's
awesome.
That's it. What is your describe your role now with the Braves?
So I still do some of that. So digital and accessible services coordinator. So I still handle kind of the keeper of the inboxes, if you will. I'll still answer your questions on social media on game days. I have a team of game day staff that I'm kind of encouraging and teaching them how to do this on behalf of the organization. They're the ones out there going and fixing it. If you have a problem, they're the ones running out. If you're celebrating a birthday, we'll set up a photo on the field after the game if we can for you post game. And just things like that. But then also just enhancing the accessible services that we have at SunTrust Park. So really, we do a great job, but there's also things that, we just want to always enhance things and be better. And so I'm really focusing on, we've never had someone who's solely focused on accessible services. And so I'm very excited for this opportunity because it's really become a passion of mine.
Sure.
Once I didn't want to just sit at home. And so I'm also a big college football fan. And when I went to a college football game in the fall of 2017, and I really appreciated the way that the security guard guided me into the ballpark. She just put my hand on her shoulder and said, just follow me, instead of saying, just walk straight. because that's difficult when, if I'm lined up a certain way, I may not walk straight. I may walk straight into you. And so I appreciated the way she focused on that. And it's little things like that that I think if you're in a wheelchair or if you're visually impaired or have a hearing impairment, that you may not hear the direction that they give you. Really listening to people and learning what we can do to really enhance ourselves and be better.
Yeah, it's amazing how I think we all, what I take take from this, because we all have our own bent and we see the world in different ways, and based on our history, our past, and who we are today. And it's just amazing how you've been prepared almost to do what you're doing right now through some difficult times, but just not like a lot of us. But yet you have to also take that step. Like you said, you couldn't have accepted everything at one time, but when you take one step at a time, and then you see opportunities, then it's really up to you whether you're going to take that. And I love one of the quotes that you said. It said that there were two factors: I could control my attitude and my effort.
Yes.
And a lot of times, if you don't have the right attitude, then it's hard to make that next step in effort. And so now seeing where you've been and what you're doing for us to make, this organization takes a lot of different parts, right? I know my role, you know your role, Ricky knows his role, but it takes all of us being excellent and having an excellent attitude to be able to make this organization what it is. And that's one thing I'm so proud of, being an Atlanta Brave, not only as a player, but also today working the front office, is that there's so many people like yourself and like Ricky that are trying to do their job in an excellent way that only you can do. So and that's what it just excites me, just to see people who are taking advantage of really how God has created them, how He's made them, and what they're doing to make their job and a great experience for the fans and for the people that come here to the ballpark. And so I applaud you for that, because there's nobody that can do what you do. You have a unique experience, a unique perspective, and I'm just proud that you have taken that step to keep going, because it is exciting to watch. I mean, I get emails from her like, hey, so-and-so is asking about this and that, and, so it's neat to
I appreciate
be able to
that.
have somebody out there, because, dealing with the public's not always an easy thing, right?
Yes.
I do a better job now than I did when I was 25.
Yeah.
And one other quick thing to give Katie Hearn kudos for, the chair of honor
Thank
out
you.
in right field,
Yes.
Military. Yeah.
that was Katie Hearn's idea.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it was. And
Well,
some of you may remember the viral picture, it went viral last season of soldier standing guard by the chair,
yes.
and it was in the rain, and a fan came up and held the umbrella over him, and that was in the. I just kept thinking how that there's such a Katie Hearn idea, and it was so perfectly executed, and the moments that have come about because of that idea have been pretty touching and amazing, and that's all due to Katie.
Well, I have 2 children in the military, so I thank you for that. I have a father-in-law that's a veteran, and so that's pretty special. That was a really neat thing that we did.
Well, we would be remiss if we had you on here and we didn't talk about you and your relationship with your friend Walter Banks. With all of our friend Walter Banks, you and him have a very special bond, and you were very fittingly the recipient of the Walter Banks Hospitality Award this past season, which was awesome. So just talk about a little bit about receiving that award, your relationship with Walter, and then also, because we're sitting here looking at Jack, who's just chilling now.
He's eyeballing me.
He is. He's got his eyes on Greg over here.
It's kind of half closed. So he's enjoying. He likes the alumni lounge.
He does.
I can tell he does.
Yeah, it's very comfortable down here. But and then also, your coworkers and the Braves, and something special they did that involves service dogs.
Yes. So Walter and I really became close friends when I was on game day staff in 2015. I wrote for the Tomahawk Times, which is a game day staff newsletter, where we highlighted different unique things for game day staff. So-and-so is celebrating their 20th anniversary. Some couples are married and they're celebrating their wedding anniversary. Geraldine and Edward, if y'all know Geraldine, that is the elevator attendant, and Edward's an usher. They celebrated their 45th wedding anniversary when I was writing for the Times. So they're probably getting up to 50 soon, next year, I guess, 2020. But I wrote an article about Walter, and I said, I don't want to talk baseball. I just want to talk about you. And so we met for breakfast one morning, and we talked up until first pitch. I mean, he told me everything about his life. We talked about himself, his kids, everything that, growing up in Atlanta, why this city is so important to him, why the Olympics were so important. And I really got to know Walter Banks. And so from then on, we stayed tight friends. He gave me his business card. I gave him my phone number. And we would, he would call me or I would call him and just check in the off season. There was kind of a little group of us that I think I only got to drive him home a couple times in 2016, but he rode the MARTA to work when it was at Turner Field. And so there were a group of people who would take him to the MARTA station to get home. And I just really enjoyed chatting with him and getting to know him. And he really supported me as well in 2017 after my vision loss. So he called me about a month after I hadn't been at work, and he said, "Where have you been?" And I said, he said, "I've been looking for you." And I said, I've got this stuff going on. I'll hopefully be back soon. At that point I was still having surgeries. I didn't know what the future was going to be. But I said, I'm still checking in. I'm still keeping up with the games, and I'm talking to everybody up there. So, I'll be back. I will be back. And he faithfully called me, and I told him in July, "Walter, I don't think, I think this vision loss is permanent." And he said, "Well, I know you." And that was, he's like, "I know you're going to be able to do this." And so he would call and check on me at least once a week, just checking in. He would always say, "You're looking so good, though," like on the phone. I think he could just tell the way I answered the phone.
Yeah.
Just wanted to give me a little bit of encouragement.
That's great.
And we have kept that up. And so he's just a really dear friend to me. And I'm just so happy about his bobblehead. He's so excited.
We're too.
Well, he has a unique way of interacting with the fans, and whenever I'm taking groups around, I'll say, "Hey, Walter, say hi to my group," and he's absolutely great with them. But it was interesting this weekend. I was looking through some old memorabilia and just things being around the Braves organization for a long time. So I pulled out an old Chop Talk magazine. You were probably 6 years old at the time, but Walter was on the cover. It was his 1994. And he's on the cover, and I have some different things that are going on that I'm inside of it because I was on the team at the time. But it said legendary usher Walter Banks, and that was in 1994.
Yeah.
He was legendary then.
Yeah, he was.
And he's even more legendary.
That's
That's
right.
the truth.
It was great.
So tell us about, there's going to be,
Sorry.
Jack's going to have some friends that are arriving
Yes.
later this year, and they're going to have some Braves-related
That's
names.
correct.
So, tell us about that.
So the school I got Jack from, Southeastern Guide Dogs, when I decided that I was going to go and I put in my application, I was kind of going through the interview process. Everyone in the front office, again, they have been so supportive of me. And they said, we want to support you. How can we support this place? And so it was $5,000 to name a puppy. And everybody were like, they started Wear Jeans to Work on Fridays. You could pay to wear jeans to work, and the money would go to naming a dog. And we were going to name the dog Banks after Walter because I wanted my dog to be named Banks after Walter. And I had found out that I could not, my dog was already going to be named once I got him, but we continued raising the money, and we ended up getting enough money for 2 dogs. And so we have named one named Banks that will be born later this spring, and then another named Hank after Hank Aaron that will be born later this summer.
Nice.
And
Isn't that awesome?
I want to give a shout out too, because I know he's listening. My friend Joe, also a Braves fan, that I met when I was at Southeastern. We were actually seated lunch buddies, and we just started talking baseball. I think it was during winter meetings, and he's from Mississippi, and so he was talking about Brian Snicker being named Manager of the Year, and I was like, "Yeah, go Braves," But hi, Joe.
That's awesome. Well, Katie, we can't thank you enough for being here and being on the Braves, taking some time with us this morning, and more importantly, you're an incredible inspiration to everybody around here and everybody you touch, and beyond that, just thank you for being my friend.
Well,
I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
I just am so happy to be a part of this team, and continue being a part of this team. It's been a privilege to just know you guys as friends and to be a part of Behind the Braves. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Katie.